Oh, we finally get to see him in person.
Hello.
I love it because Joe, your picture is your main picture is your favorite one I've seen of anybody of all the Zoom calls I'm ever on.
Thank
So
you.
anyway, today is April 2nd, 2025, and we got a lot of great things to share. And what I was asking before we got started was Kevin Stone bought the GoPro. When did you buy that?
Yeah, it's a DJI Pocket Osmo. I don't know if you guys can see it, but
Okay.
it's
When did you get it? You got it at EXPCon,
I
right?
got it after EXPCon. I got it in December, I think, November, I believe. And
Okay.
so I take it to every house I go view, and I videotape it, and I've been playing with myself in front of the camera a little bit. Um,
Look,
I've
so
done
here's a
full
great here's a great
video.
segue. Here's a great segue. Thank you. I'm setting you up.
for for
So
embarrassment,
here's the
right?
thing. No, 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 for embarrassment to me. So I just recently, in the last few months, whatever, kind of got, I don't know what got me. Well, part of it was going to that seminar that I went to in Dallas in February because it was the top people, of all. And when you sit around, who you sit around with influences you and will either pick you up or pull you down. And so I always believe I love the phrase, don't be the smartest person in the room. So you can learn everything and just, listen. So I'm there, hanging out with people that are probably all making probably I'm going to guess at least 1 million is the lowest, but they're all probably making 3, 5, 10 million a year in real estate in sales. And they're doing it at a higher level. So I'm just trying to absorb and take it all in. And then, I've always been the mindset if someone is doing better than I want to do, whatever that is, I'm going to go hang out with them. And I'm not going to tell them what I do and what I think it should be because, they're the ones that are doing it. And so I really kind of practiced that more. And so recently, I was listening to some things or reels or whatever, and so one thing I got was stop scrolling and start listening to books that give you information. And like I have a person in my family who loves to read novels and stuff like that. And that's great, and that feeds that energy. But I don't have time for that yet, and I just want to. While I might like that, I want just to know more information so I can get on and get out basically because realtors last time you went to a realtor retirement party was probably never because they just don't retire ever. So what I'm saying is I've stopped scrolling, and when I start doing that or I start looking at Facebook or something, I get off really quick and I go to something that's adding value. And so I've been listening to a couple of books, and one I was listening to was or is How to Get Control of Your Life. And so listening to that, I learned that I'm a perfectionist. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not a perfectionist. I've got clutter in places and all this kind of stuff. And I learned why I do that. And so I told Craig that, and he kind of looked at me like, what? And then I told Doug that, and he started laughing at me, which I was laughing at myself too. But let me share with you the perfectionist. I was in my mind getting perfectionist and OCD confused, and so perfectionist to me was, everything just has to be perfect, all the time, blah, blah, blah. My house, my car, which is, always filthy unless I've got it, car wash going on or whatever. And so I learned that I will think of something, an idea like GoPro, and then I will start thinking about it. And the other book that I love of hers is The 5 Second Rule, where you count backwards from five and you take action. And so you know, I've done that a lot and just not gotten something out the door to test it and start learning because I'm, trying to perfect it, or it's fear. And I don't ever like to think of myself as afraid, but it's fear of I'm going to fail. I'm going to put it out there. It's going to be bad or, whatever, or I'm going to look funny or people are going to laugh at me, all that kind of stuff. Somebody needs to mute their phone or whatever. But so, so I said that to Craig and Doug. They both laughed at me, and I had the words in my mind what I was saying back. But I just, I thought that is me, and I just gotta get away from that. So I'm really learning from that, and I thought it was amazing. And the other two things I really picked up on was from listening to one of the books was turn off all my notifications. I used to love to be a news junkie and know everything going on so that I could share that when I was with, my friends or whatever in the evening. And then I learned that actually. And I thought I'll turn that off because I learned if when you get distracted, it takes your brain like 4 hours to get back to what you were doing. And so I turned that off, and that's been amazing. And I also don't hit the snooze button. And that doesn't mean in the morning for me. That means I set an alarm like for this call to remind me I got to stop and do this call. And I do that a lot. So I've stopped doing that or I don't hit the snooze. I hit it stop and do whatever it is. And so those things have just made a tremendous change for me. And it all came from listening to books. I don't like to read because I like to listen while I'm walking or driving or whatever. And so I would not get all the information from reading. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because I've been dying to see what you're going to do with it. And maybe I just got to get one and do it myself. But because I do want to get one, but I wanted to see what you're going to do with it.
Now it feels like the gauntlet has been thrown down.
No. I was just wanting to follow what you were doing with it, and
Yeah.
but
I mean,
I'll
so
do
my
it.
goal is really, why am I in real estate? What do I want to do? I want to share that with people. I want to share lifestyle things with Palm Springs because, I mean, there's so like desert access going on right now. So, there's some
Right.
really good stuff outside of just what normal realtors put out there. So, get people excited about Palm Springs is what I'm thinking.
Exactly. And so anyway, I just want to share that, but I want to hear what's going on. First of all, let's keep listings till closer to the end and in case somebody needs to go. So I think probably one of the most important things everybody wants, or maybe you tell me what you want to hear, maybe put it in the chat, but what's going on in the market, what you're seeing. First of all, let's talk with people who are working with buyers. Has anybody gotten an offer accepted in the last 30 days? And did you experience with that, or what do you want to share on that? Anybody? If you raise your hand, I'll see it. Oh yeah, Anne.
Yeah, I have a buyer that's going to close on April 11th. They're coming from Fort Bragg up to Virginia. So that's good, except I lost that sync buyer that I had because her husband works for the Department of
You just
Justice.
got cut out. I think your phone went to mute.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
I'm hearing it.
Okay.
I hear you.
Okay. So I lost a buyer though because of the government shakeup stuff. So
Okay. Well, and I wouldn't say that's complete loss. That's just a not now, right?
right. Yeah.
So and that's something too. I think we're all, so those of us who sold for years are used to things happening a lot faster and quicker and easier, and it's just not that way. And I heard Leo say the other day when I was at that meeting, the easiest part of a transaction is writing the offer, getting accepted in the next 30 days. That's so easy. That's just routine. It's getting them to that point, finding somebody and then getting them to that point. And then when you get them to that point of I'm ready to go look, it's 100 days right now is what they're all saying from statistics. That's nationwide too. It may be different in different markets. But if you've got somebody today saying I'm ready to go, right, I'm ready to go look at properties or whatever, now it's 100 days before you're going to get paid. So the idea of that is you better start, talking to more people to get them to that point so that you got money coming in. Anyone else? So you got that one. Oh wait, you got that one closing April 11th, you said. So where did you get that buyer from?
That was a sync lead as well. So
Okay,
yeah,
great.
it was a sync lead. And then I have a new construction closing at the beginning of May, and that was through Homes for Heroes that I got that person. So
And that's a referral program, right?
yes.
Yeah. So that's great. And, ideally, my business for all the 25 years, Doug's for many years, all of ours has been, past clients and referrals and word of mouth. And, you got to do, if you want that, that's fine. But like Ann, you've got to work on other sources. So online leads, referrals, and maybe you won't make, as much on a referral because those referral companies have different situations, but it's something, and you're also able to advertise it and promote it and still stay active. What about anybody else got something yeah, Kevin, what do you got?
3 weeks ago I had a couple out from Atlanta. We looked at 15 homes. They
Yeah.
found the home that they wanted. They went home and we were writing an offer, and then they decided that they didn't want to do a 1031, a reverse 1031 exchange. So, and I told them, said, you need to talk to your lawyer on this if you really want to do a 1031 exchange. And so they did. And the lawyer, of course, said they had to wait until they sell Zaxby's before they can do a 1031 exchange for some reason. So we lost the home that they were looking at, and I was disappointed. I also had my friend who said that I'd have his listing in 2 weeks, and his divorce is not final, so it'd probably be July now. So I was disappointed in that. And then I had a referral from him on a couple from Pasadena that has been leasing for 2 years, has $400,000 down, and needs to buy a house before June. And they came out and they were just so disappointed in the inventory in Palm Springs. They went home despondent. But that was 3 weeks ago. And, this is the part that I'm still learning is, just how crazy this business is and how it changes on a dime. And then Sunday night, I get a call from they want to put an offer down the people in Pasadena. So we have an offer out, thanks to Chris, as of yesterday afternoon. So we'll find out what happens today on that. In Palm Springs, there's 8 months of inventory on the market. So it is a buyer's market, but sellers are not coming down on price a lot. And they just go, oh, I'll just take it off the market if, I don't get the price I want. So it's kind of it's a challenging market for sure. But anyway, so looks like, we have one offer out. Hopefully something will happen with that. And then my Atlanta guys are coming back on the 11th to look for more properties. So
You got a lot going on.
getting in there and staying positive and keep on talking to people like I normally do, and things will happen.
No, you nailed on the head. And, you're right. You got to keep on talking to people. And I'm kind of having fun with that right now with some stuff, just getting in the habit of doing that and engaging with them and how I'm engaging with them and what I'm engaging with them with. And then how to follow up and all that kind of stuff. And it's a job, but I was walking through an open house a little while ago, and the agent had only been selling for like a year, and we were talking, and we were basically just saying, most agents just don't really, sell that much because they just don't treat it like a job if they were going to get fired on Friday. And for not doing the work this week. And that's okay. Whatever, everybody's goal is whatever it is, and everybody's situation and whatever's worth to somebody for this or that, or it's just a lot of times I think myself, I may spend a lot of time on something and I could have spent a lot less time, like when you're going to go on vacation and you get everything done in 1 day or 2 days, and you could have done that all along. And so I'm learning that. But that's true. You just got to keep meeting people and follow up with them. So I want to lead in what you just said to something that you have contributed. So Chris has been working extremely hard to put together something. Can y'all see my screen?
Chuck, Mary had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mary, go ahead. Is this about a new a new offer you've written or something? Or escrow?
No, I just wanted to say from a title perspective on the west side over the last 3 weeks, every single week, the amount of open houses has really upticked. And when I was talking to everyone yesterday, almost every agent that I spoke to, it's all people that are trying to capitalize on what has kind of happened over here on the west side. And I imagine it's probably a little bit the same over in Altadena and areas affected by the fires. But a lot of buyers were short-term renting, and now they're finally looking to get back in the market. They either aren't rebuilding or are rebuilding or are taking the insurance money and going elsewhere. But we have a massive uptick in listings over here for sure. That's
Okay,
just
so
my
more listings on the market and more open houses. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, there's more opportunities. Open houses are great places to meet people. Somebody has their mic on, so mute your mics, please, or maybe Chris, mute them all, please. So, open houses are a great place to meet people. I'm working on helping attract an agent for somebody, and she told me that she was new to an area, And I just said, well, that's great. I think that's wonderful. You know, I mean, that's good, but you're sitting there 3 hours. And I just kind of been through something to learn that you're sitting there 3 hours hoping somebody comes in that doesn't have an agent, and that's how you're going to get it, rather than coming up with other ways to get out there, get your name out there, whatever, to get a bigger pool of people to work through. Of which, Ray, in a minute, I want you to speak to that property ad that you did. But I want to show you real quick what Kevin did. So what I was saying was, Chris has been working really, really hard to put together like a notebook, basically, that you can pull documents together quickly. And so I think most of us, we're all running so fast that we're not stopping and slowing down to look at something that could just help us a lot. And someone the other day I was talking with was so frantic about several things going on. And I said, and I need checklists, all this stuff. And I said, well, have you looked at what we've been putting together? And so hadn't seen it. So I just want to show it to you real quick. So it's very simple. It used to be a link in the email that you probably maybe didn't see it because it was down in the email. But we put together this whole resource, and Kevin worked on one. That's what I want to show you. So it's magneticwealthexperts.com. So that's how you got to remember, magneticwealthexperts.com. And that's what we call our group. And so on this page, you click here, but basically, does everybody see my screen before I go further? Okay, good. So all through the screen, don't look at it. I mean, don't get bogged in it right now, but sometime when you have time, when you're sitting at the doctor's office waiting on whatever, or in line at the grocery store or whatever, click this on, figure out a way to get on your phone really easy so you can look at it, and then go through each one of these folders. Don't get scared off by the Google Drive, whatever, or spreadsheets, and maybe we'll figure out a nice way to make it even cleaner and simpler. But go through each one of these and see what they are. So apps, what we're going to put in there right now, it says staging because that's a virtual staging. We got a couple of them in there for that, but we're going to put more apps in there. There's all kind of apps to help you. Canva is an example of things that Chris has put together, like a for sale, and then this is a for sale listing flyer, that you've got really quick to use. And then he's got it in here where there's a template and you can just pop your stuff in there really quick. You don't have to, see, like here's template. You don't have to go find it in Canva. Chris has put all this together for you. The listing presentation. This is huge. You need a listing presentation really quick. I think the days are over that, if somebody calls and says, come list me, which is what, Doug and I have experienced, and those have been selling a long time, Robert and everybody, is that you're going to get the listing because they like you. But we really should be ready to go with someone that doesn't even know us. So there's a listing presentation. Chris has got an excellent photo, so everybody's got to get one like that. But here's your professional history. You can fill in this stuff and the way you want. Some of this is all standard, and just the picture pops in there. Client testimonials. If you're not getting those from clients, grab 3 or 4. If you're newer and you don't have testimonials, get 3 or 4 talking about your character and your follow through and how you help people and all that kind of stuff. Recent transactions, all of this is already in here. You just have to customize it. And so you want to do that, now before waiting to go on an appointment, so it's a matter of, being prepared. But all of this is in here. You can send this to them in advance, or you can leave this with them or go over it with them. There's just a lot of great information in here. So that's that. And you can go through the other things in here. Douglas Stockley put in that great piece that he did and showed us last week that he generated in Canva AI and just said, I want a beautiful mid-century picture and the EXP logo on there. And that's how he got that. But some of these other things in here. So that's that. And then now, how do I go back to the top? Okay, there we go. So sync training, if you're interested in sync, like Ann just talked about. But actually, we're going to be changing that to some other things going forward with KV Core that we're doing. And we can talk more about that later. But helpful resources here. You sometimes need a W-9 and the mailing address. That's right there. You're getting a referral. It's right there. The expert care desk, that should be, a contact in your phone. and step by step. I think this is amazing. Step by step, how to find out what your CDA breakdown is. So many of us get from escrow what the breakdown is for escrow to pay EXP and pay us, but you're not checking the numbers to make sure your breakdown is correct. It could be an error, but you're thinking you don't know how much is going towards a split or towards your E&O or towards your stock purchase that I hope everybody's doing at a 5% discount. So anyway, this explains how to do that real easy. So a lot of these things are just stuff that everybody calls us and asks or text or something. So we just thought, well, we'll put this all together so that we can just say, go Magnetic Wealth Experts, and you'll see it in there. And you just need to take time to know what is in here, you know? And so to Kevin's, what he contributed to us is a checklist. And there's a bunch of these. You just got to scroll down through here.
Scroll to the top.
Chris, to the top. Okay. Right there. Okay. He's got it in alphabetical order, right? Okay. So buyer checklist, but let's look at the one that is the buyer offer terms created by Kevin. Now, this is a work in progress because there's maybe a few more things to add to it. And if y'all see something you're using and you want to share it, you know, send it to us like Kevin did. But this is what you need when you're going to write an offer. So instead of trying to remember, okay, this, you know, the address and it's this many days of escrow and the loan is this, and, you know, insurance is that and all this stuff. And if you have somebody, you know, working with you that you're sending it over and they're writing it, how many times do we go back and forth and say, oh, I forgot to put that in, or, oh, you need to change that. Or they call and say, well, how much is the home warranty and all that kind of stuff. So this is just a checklist that you can just click here and fill in what you need. You just start typing in and there it goes, you know? And so you've got everything on here. And what we're going to do, it's a numerical order, but what we're also going to do is put what line on the contract it goes in. So that'll be even more helpful. But it's all here, and, you know, buyer's agent, listing agent, whatever you need. So you shouldn't have to think, what do I need to write an offer? Oh, let me write this down. You could be finishing with the buyer right there at the appointment and go get in your car and sit down. And if you've got somebody helping you write offers, or even yourself, just sit down and fill this out so, you know, you don't forget. Does any of this sound good or helpful? Everybody turn your mic on and say thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Well,
Thank
seriously.
you, Chris.
So I'm doing
Thank
that
you,
because
Chris.
we've been, you know, really trying to get this together quickly, and it's here. And so this should eliminate a ton of time, right? That you just got stuff to go right there. And also there was the lease checklist. There's also, if you're not using this, I really don't know why, is the buyer checklist. So as soon as you get an escrow opened, then here's a checklist with everything you need to know that you should never, ever have to go back. I can't tell you how many times I will be talking with somebody because they ask me a question and I'll say, well, when's the closing date? Okay, well, let me just look right here. Let me find that email. And, you know, and then say, well, when is this or that? You just need one place to look. If the lender calls you and says, we need to extend the appraisal contingency, and, you know, he's got a million files he's looking at, he or she, you need to know when the date is and not ask them. And this could just be right on your phone. So this has everything you need. And if you think of something else, let us know so we can add it in, but it's got the address. Our other one that hasn't gotten updated here yet is the name of the seller. We've got that in there. The date of acceptance, the physical contingency, the appraisal, and you put it right over here. And we always put done once it's done, or the date it's going to happen. And we put done over here. So like the physical contingency date, let's say it's 14 days from today, like the 16th, you'd put in there 4/16 and just go down through here. And then all these things you shouldn't have to remember, and you shouldn't have to depend on anyone else. So, you know, creating the in escrow posts for social media, asking the agent for utility information because your buyer's going to love that. Scheduling inspections. We're going to make sure these are all in order. We're still working on that, but, you know, send out all disclosures. Make sure the 9A is ordered within 48 hours of acceptance. You know, I remember years ago there was a fire at the building downtown, and we had 9As taking, you know, like a month to get. So, you know, if you get if an agent from a listing perspective, if you get a full price offer to close in 10 days and you need the 9A and you don't have it yet, as a listing agent, you're not going to be able to do that. Complete your Avid. You know, we always do that usually during the photography, not later, because you want to really have all your disclosures ready, you know, when the offer is being presented or on the MLS, and maybe put some of those documents on there. But you know, send the request for repair, remove physical tenancy, remove loan appraisal, and then in here will also be to request an updated closing statement for your buyer to make sure they're getting the credit for that physical contingency. So that'll be in here. Some of these, like I said, some of these are out of order, but we're just trying to get so many of these done that we're just pushing it through. Ask client to write a testimony. Ask the client, add the client to an anniversary card. We send an anniversary card every year to our clients with a picture of the house on the front of the card, reminding them happy anniversary, and add them to the birthday list. Do we need to install a lockbox for keys at close of escrow? That was a real cool thing that happened a couple of years ago at a walkthrough at our listing. The buyer's agent came up to me afterwards and she said, here's a brand new lockbox and the code is whatever, but it was brand new. And she said, I'm going to put this on the house now. And then when we close, if you can put the keys in there, then, you know, the buyers and I can just come at our leisure and get it. And I was so impressed with that because that was helping the buyers have a lockbox to let handyman or, you know, whatever things be delivered until they really moved in or something. And it also saved us from having to schedule that later. You know, so many of us, we wait until closing. Okay, how do we get the keys? And we can do all this stuff in advance. So, you know, gift for buyer's agent, gift for sellers, unless they're buying something, change MLS status to sold. Change, you know, take down that for sale sign. A buyer hates to see that when they drive up, and that needs to be done, you know, at least 3 days before closing. So we got this. We got also for a seller, all these checklists. You can look in here later, but I just wanted you to know all these things. So let me just go down quickly through the titles, just so you know what all's in here. How to get out of here.
You just shut the folder, so you need to go back to it.
Oh, I need to open it up again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here we go. So all of these others,
It's
EXP
not
live
showing.
events. Oh, sorry.
I would just do it. Just go from
Stop sharing
mhm.
to start sharing. Here we go. Okay, now we're back.
We're
Yeah.
back.
You good now.
Okay, good. So EXP live events, click on here, you'll see where rallies are going around the country. May 1st is one down in close to San Diego. I would strongly advise you going to that.
Carlsbad.
Carlsbad, okay. If you went to last year in Anaheim, it's going to be something similar to that or better. Jessica, who did our call last month, is handling it, and she's got it so detailed down to if you take Amtrak down, you'll get off at a certain time and be able to get there in time for it. That's how structured it is. So that's going to be amazing. Jessica's will be speaking there. That was on our call last month. LaShawn from Detroit's coming. Glenn Sanford's going to be there. When you have the founder of the company coming, that's pretty amazing. So I'll just leave it at that. But those are right there for you to register. Lunch is included in the price. I can't remember how much it is. It's not that much. EXP Luxury, there's everything about luxury you want to know. EXP New Forms, August, that was like for the NAR new representation, buyer representation. EXP Leadership Board, this is a fun one. You can go straight to this by going to expleadershipboard.com, but I'll just do it this way. So here you go here. And this is also through the My EXP app. Write that down if you don't have it, the My EXP app, because it's got a lot of this stuff in there and it's real quick. So everybody can still see this, right?
We see
Okay, so
your name is Charles over there.
I am. So this is the top agents in the country year to date, January through April, month to date, April to the month, and week to date. And then you can actually, let me move my screen around here so I can see. Nope. You can actually go in here. So these are the top 10, and then you can keep scrolling and going on down however many you want. But you can go here to filters, and you can go to California, and then now it's popped up there, and you got to scroll down, and now here's California, and you got to scroll down. That's the point, because at first I wasn't finding it. So look who is top number 9 in all of California, Debbie Reve, and look who's 10, Douglas Stockley, and their production. Isn't that a wonderful? So congratulations to Debbie and Douglas. And when you see something like this, if you know the people, congratulate them, because we always want to be, thought of, and they may not even know it. And if you see something like this is a great time to, post it, catch it when it's for the week, because it's going to be just maybe that day at that point. And if you have a big sale, it may really pop up there, and post it, share it, your number, whatever. And out of 85,000 agents, or if it's, the nationwide or whatever. So that's very helpful to use. Let's see back to the other.
So Chuck, while
yeah,
you
sure.
scroll, I just wanted to go back to like the form that I put on there and just kind of give you guys my comments on it. And maybe Chris, you can too.
Yes.
Last year was my first year, and Chris and I kind of fumbled around a little bit on some of my deals, and I'm sure that I caused him a lot of heartbreak or frustration with not having complete information and stuff like that. So, starting the new year, I decided that, that I wanted to be better at what I was doing, and just be more thoughtful, and also to slow down. I heard that a lot last year. It's to slow down. So I just created the form for myself, but what I found out was with my buyers, they like it just as much, because they can see every little important point without having to read all the legal terminology that's on a RPA and stuff like that. And then also when Chris sends me an offer, I actually can check it based on the check sheet that I have and go through the form and make sure that every single point's there. So I thought it saved time for me, and it also made me slow down a little bit to make sure I got all the information. There was one thing that with this current buyer that was my fault. I didn't ask them if they had a trust, and of course, after we got the offer done, we realized they have a trust, and so we had to redo the signatures on that. But that was the only mistake. But last year, it seemed like we were redoing offers 3 or 4 times before we could get out, and so this was just the effort on my part to ensure that I communicate the right information, get the right information, confirm the right information with them, and then I'm able to communicate to Chris where he can just copy and paste as he needs to.
Yeah, because it saved a lot of time, and thank you. I hadn't even thought of that. So sharing it with the buyer so they can see everything. And I will say that another thing we need to make sure is on there is an escalation clause if you're using that. Just anything. So a very good point about the trust, a very good thing about how do they want their name to read. If you did me and you said you didn't know me, you said Chuck Keller, I would, send it back and say, no, it's got to be Charles A. Keller II. And if they didn't hear me and they said Charles Keller, I would say, no, it's got to have the A and it's got to have the second. And there's just a lot of reasons for that. It's not that I'm on an ego trip, but it's because it's got to match other things that are so important. And so that caused me a lot of stress and months to change. So if we just ask up front, think about all of the back and forth, and we're all salespeople, and we tend to get going really quick and get distracted and squirrel. And, this really helps us. And if something's not filled in, it may either need to be aligned through it, so it doesn't matter, or, we forgot to ask. And so it's just, I think it's brilliant. So we already had it for the buyers and seller checklist for as a escrow, as an agent. But Kevin, thank you for doing this. So anybody else that does something like this that you're using that we can share, it's just so helpful. And I hadn't even thought about it. So walk us through the process. You create it. So then how are you sharing it to your buyer so they can look at it?
Yeah, I think the next step for me is to throw it into Chat GPT and see if Chat GPT can create an email to my buyers once the offer is accepted with all the important dates in there and say, hey, Paul and Jim, here's what's coming up now that we're in escrow, so there's a lot we can do with these things.
So, but when you send them the checklist of showing them the things you want with, timelines and everything, so they can quickly read the contract, are you putting that in an email through ChatGPT, or are you just sending them the checklist itself?
No. I'm sending them an email and calling them at the same time.
Okay. Okay, good. So yeah, so that's great. And you got to do what works for you, but everything I think is so important about time. And here's the one thing that I do not like to hear people say, because I'm learning not to say it myself. So that's why is, well, I've done it this way before or whatever. And I'm just finding that if I do it like I've done before and someone else that I'm competing with is doing it differently and quicker and faster and prettier, I may be losing that person because they'll go with that other one because they're really, knowledgeable about something. I learned something today on listing presentations that I'd never thought of, and I'll share that with y'all another time. But I thought, oh wow, I've been walking to a listing presentation with the wrong list of what I was going to start talking about, and anyway, and then just so y'all know, I hope you're all playing with ChatGPT. I asked the other day, I said, can I give you a name so I don't always call you ChatGPT? And it said, yeah, what do you want to call me? You want something fun? You want something, classic or whatever? I said, sure, give me some ideas. And gave me all these ideas because, Craig gets tired of hearing me talk about ChatGPT, and I'm sure Doug and Chris do as well. But I will say it saved me so much time on so many things that if you're if you're going to Google first, then you need to stop and do that first. And if you're spending more than 5 or 10 minutes thinking about something, you need to stop and ask ChatGPT because it's already got all the information about tons of stuff. It knows a lot of stuff about EXP that I really didn't think it would know. And it knows everything about you that you tell it. You want to make sure you never put in something personal like a social security number, like that. But anything else that's public, so I've told it everything. And so one of the things I said the other day was it says, do you want me to create that for you? I said, absolutely. And then it replied back, sure, Chuck, because I know you want to go outside and walk, get on the dock and walk and look at the water and play with Tallulah, and it was like, because I'd said I have a dog Tallulah, and that one day I'd said a friend was bringing over their 1-year-old puppy that was in heat, and how should I approach this with my 11-year-old, Golden, and it just so much stuff. It's amazing, and honestly, I'll say this: ChatGPT is really nothing now compared to all the other things that people are talking about and working on. So I'm just saying we got to ramp it up to get there. But anyway, let me just go through a couple things and we can get back to talking about some more stuff. I want to show you these great holiday annual posts that Chris has created. So these are in Canva. And so you can just get an idea here. You can do yours however you want. But like here was one for Valentine's Day. And you can post this on social media like that, quickly create. You can actually, the fastest way I think really is you could just go to ChatGPT and say, give me something to share on Facebook and Instagram that meets the guidelines for everything. So it shows up nice, clear, and on a mobile app as well as on a laptop. And I want a real, dozen red roses in a beautiful Waterford crystal vase. And I've actually said that. And I said, no, change that to another kind of vase. Yesterday, I was playing with our vacation rental in Palm Springs. And so I said, Oh, I know what it was said. We have a client that comes every year for a month or, 60 days or 42 days or whatever. And I said, create an invoice. Here's the name, here's their address. So you don't have to ever repeat that again because it'll know it for next year. And it's 42 days, and here's the rate for the month. Figure out what the invoice is. The deposit is this. I want 10% down now, and then 25% of the total due, 60 days from now, and blah 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 blah. Broke it all down, and I showed that to Craig, and I said, how long did it take you to do that last one? He said, I don't know, 30 minutes. And before, Chris knows, I would always text him and say, help me find the one from last year and cut this out and paste this and whatever. And it did it in 30 seconds. So then I got real fun with it, and I said, I need to create a logo or a picture to put on this invoice. And so I grabbed the snapshot of our pool, and I said, take this, and what can you do with it? And then, and this was something Doug and Chris and I were talking about earlier in the week, I said, make it a sketch, and it turned it into a black and white sketch. And then I said, make it a watercolor. It did that. I said, now give it a Andy Warhol vibe. It did, 4 pictures, and you just, if you're not playing with it, you don't know. And I'm telling you, it's going to save you a ton of time. So that's a lot of the stuff there. And also, if you ever have somebody that wants to join EXP and you don't remember, the app to go to and everything and what to tell them to make sure they got your name as a sponsor and all that, that's in there too. So anything that anybody asks you, including your clients, I learned this years ago from Tom Ferry, you should do either a video on it or, maybe, something like this that you can quickly send. So I know it took us some time talking about that, but I'm just thinking that's really going to help you save time. So what else do we want to talk about?
I want to talk about KV Core if no one else has anything important.
You're using it, right?
I'm not, and I
Okay.
think good because I have Sync. I've been exclusively on Sync. So when I first started with EXP, it was briefly introduced to me by whoever onboarded me, and they said, really, most people use Sync, blah, 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 and kind of brushed over KV Core. Is it something that's, I mean, because I just had a luxury training on how KV Core works with video, how KV Core works with Google ads and stuff like that. So I was wondering, is this something that we need to look into? Is it something that's is KV Core what the EXP website is powered by? I guess I kind of want to understand if it's worth.
Anybody want to comment on that?
I will. Yeah. So yeah, if you're using KV Core, your EXP website is powered through KV Core,
Okay.
and it's got some basic functions. You can customize some, but not everything. But there's a lot you can customize. It's not easy. At least it wasn't for me to get it set up. But once I got it set up, it's kind of like set it and forget it. You can add pages to it, which is fairly simple. So I've added a page with dog parks. If I were a regular blogger, I could have that all hosted there. So you can host a lot of sub pages within that, and that's not too complicated to build out. So I have a love-hate relationship with KV Core. It's incredibly robust to the point that it's overwhelming. I find some things work better than others. My favorite feature is with buyers, rather than pushing the listings from the MLS, I push them from KV Core. When you push them from KV Core and they open that email and click on those homes, that shows up on your dashboard. So I go to my dashboard every morning and I can see which homes my potential buyers have been looking at and how many times they looked at it. And I find that really, really valuable. I've kind of poo-pooed the smart campaigns. You can do drip campaigns in here. Again, they've got tons of canned ones. I've ignored it up until now, and now I'm paying for leads, and I'm realizing how hard it is to manage follow-up with when you're dealing with more than a handful of leads at once. So I'm starting to kind of embrace some of those features. So anyway, I mean, like I said, there's some things I don't like about it, but I'm starting to see some of the advantages when you get into when you're managing a lot at once.
Gotcha.
If that helps.
Good point. Anybody else want to add to that? Doug, you want to, from what you know, or Chris?
No, I've been setting up 2 different KV cores the last couple of weeks, one for Chuck and one for Doug.
Oh, I see.
And yeah, I've been slowly going through it. The one issue I'm running into, and maybe Ray, if you know, we can talk about it after, is after you've uploaded, like you've imported your leads, and then let's say you want to import more leads, for like a specific reason, and some of them are already in your KV core, it won't re-upload those, and it will say they're duplicates, so it just basically won't upload them, even though you might be adding like a hashtag to it, which is like a group, because you want to send to this entire list that you're uploading. But let's say like half of that list is already in your KV core, it won't just, from what I see, it won't just like update that existing contact, if that makes sense.
Override it, like you're saying?
Yeah, so like let's say I wanted to make an addition to certain people on the list, right? Instead of like, or like add some birthdays, add an anniversary, or add a hashtag and stuff like that. Like there's something we're doing right now. For example, we're gonna do an invite list, and we're adding some extra people to it, but there's a lot of people that are pre-existing in our account. It won't merge that list with the people that are pre-existing.
Okay. Ray, do you know anything about that?
Well, one of the things I've also found is it doesn't check for duplications. So like when I bought a list of my farm, I had that bulk uploaded, and then I would meet somebody and manually add them. It put them both in there. It doesn't seem to search for duplicates.
When I do a mass import, like a bulk import, it does find the duplicates. It says like, so let's say I uploaded like 132 contacts. Like 87 of them were duplicates, but that would have added some stuff to them, like some hashtag or whatever. But instead of that, it just said those 87 aren't going to be uploaded. And if you choose to override that, it does upload them as duplicates, but immediately archives them. So and I'm trying to find a workaround. I've posted on KV Core's workplace, and I've also posted on Family Tree. People have been responding to me about coding and stuff like that, which is way out of my comfort zone. But there's one guy that said that he has a file, which I'm guessing is just like the way it's formulated in Excel, that can override that. So once I get that, he told me to message him, which I did this morning. So once I get that, I'll share it with you, just in case you ever come across the same issue.
Well, there's a couple of other things you guys should probably know if you're all diving into it, that the phone number that's assigned to you through KV Core is a round robin phone number. It's shared across multiple agents when leads are coming in. You can buy your own dedicated phone line, which I think if you're doing any kind of lead gen through KV Core, I would recommend it. I have not done that yet, but that is an option. It's just a monthly fee. Also, KV Core websites are subdomains within EXP, which means Google is not spidering your website in KV Core. So if you're doing a lot of blog posting and you're putting that in your KV Core website, Google isn't seeing it to pull you up in search results. But you can pay, and it's the last I checked, it was $27 a month to have your EXP website pulled up a level to where it's not a subdomain of Google, if I'm getting the terminology, not a subdomain of EXP, and I'm sorry if I'm getting the terminology wrong, but it moves it up a level so that Google can actually spider it and see the content, and so that it shows up in search results.
I think that's important. That sounds like the best $27 you could probably.
I think if you're doing Google ads or a lot of ads online, or you're blogging a lot, to me, yeah, you're kind of wasting your energy if it isn't searchable on Google.
Yeah.
So, keep in mind, there's, well, let me say something real quick. Keep in mind, there's like everybody doing things, and then there's people trying to scale. And so that means, more money or whatever. But for most of us, most agents, you need somewhere your past clients are in there and your current clients, so that when you want to send out a new listing or you want to touch them throughout the year, you've got a system that works. And that's perfect for that. And then there's certain add-on things. I can just tell everybody this. I know Glenn Sanford, especially, and Leo as well, would not have this product if they didn't think this was the best one for everybody at the best cost and all that kind of stuff. And so here's one thing you need to know. If you don't have it right now, go into Enterprise, expenterprise.com after this phone call and find the KV Core, right, Chris, to activate it.
Yeah, so the way to do it right now, it might change in the near future because I know they're moving away from the EXP Enterprise website, but go log into EXP Enterprise with your passport, which is your EXP email. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see, I think it says like optional services or something like that. Click on that. It says optional, I know that. And then you'll see KV Core, and it's literally you just hit like request activation, and then it can take up to 10 business days, but you can get things pushed along. You can always reach out to concierge and stuff like that and see, like, after a couple of days if you haven't, because you'll receive an email to set up your login.
So,
KV Core.
So what I was going to say is, because there's so many more people wanting to know this, there's another form that we'll put in the Magnetic Wealth Experts resource files, how to do all that. Otherwise,
It's already
we either
there.
all get, oh, it's already there. Oh, okay, great. That's all you got to do is do that, because this is just saving time, because you'll all call later or email or text, and then you got to wait till we get back if we don't do it right away. But my point was, it takes like 10 days to get it activated. So you want to go ahead and do that. And the reason it takes that, because I talked to Pat, I can't think of his last name, when I was in Dallas. Sometimes our SkySlope files get turned off and then need to be reactivated. It's because it's like having an app that you don't ever use, and yet you're getting paid for it. So think 85,000 agents. They don't leave everything just going on forever, because they don't know who's really, pushing hard and working. And if something has been used in like 60 days or something, they temporarily, turn it off, but we'll turn it back on. And that's good business. And I heard Jessica say last month, you should go through our like a P&L, go through your bank statement and see what you're paying for, even $20 you're not using. Somebody was going to say something.
It was
Was
me.
that you, Mary? No, I think it was Mary or Ann. Oh,
He's muted.
you're muted. Adrian,
sorry.
you're muted.
I'm here.
Okay.
No, you answered everything, so thank you.
Guys, I will also
Wonderful.
point out that evidently KV Core Inside Real Estate has bought Bolt Trail, and we're going to be migrating to that. And I don't know if that means a new platform, or are they merging the two, and we stay with KV Core, the functionality gets better. Chuck, do you have any insight on that?
I'll just say whatever we're going with, I trust it, because let me just tell you, the email and the text that y'all get about this meeting, Doug and I pay $200 a month to have that. So, and we were kind of under the impression that I would hear people say, I don't like KV Core because of this, I don't like it. I thought, okay. And then with Sean Kokoska, our coach, he said, this is a great, one to have. And then we got into it, and it wouldn't do certain things. So $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year. And then we got KV Core for free. And then, we already talked about the Reach app that we talked about on the call last month for, $4.99 to text people in a group that looks like you just sent it to them. So we dropped that, and we're dropping the Sync platform as well for that. And that's $1,400 a month. So, we're going to have KV Core because it's included in our $85 a month fee, and we can add on, make it rain if we want, for $250 to get us the same amount of leads we were getting, and do all that we were paying $1,400 a month for. Well, that's us. And we can talk about more of that later. Go ahead.
Chuck, I wasn't a huge fan of KV Core in the beginning. I did a lot of research at all the different CRMs for real estate, and it's, hands down, it's one of the best in the space, even though there's some clunky things about it, but there's clunky things about all of them. Yes. And I don't know if it's still true, but there was a point that EXP had a partnership with Lofty. And if you didn't want to go on KV Core, there's a little extra fee to it, but you could go on Lofty instead.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know about that, but I'll tell you what I'll do. Maybe if y'all are really interested in it, we could have a KV Core person that's really using it, at all these levels we're talking about, come on and do a call with us. And that might be really helpful. If you're not, if you don't have any kind of CRM, you really do, and it's your phone, but you're not able to get the word out quickly, and it's taking you time, and it's not that hard to do the simple stuff, especially once it's set up. And I will say this too, Chat GPT knows everything about KV Core. Always start there for a process before you do anything else, and it'll probably give you some stuff. Doug, did you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm good.
I
Okay.
do.
Okay.
In the last year, I've bought several lead generation campaigns with Zillow. I just recently ended one with Realtor.com. And what I'm finding with these campaigns is they control the leads. What they do is they will, when you start, they'll give you one great one, and then they'll give you a lot of crappy ones, and until you complain. And then if you complain or threaten to cancel, then they medically feed you more. So like Realtor.com, it was $300 a month, so affordable. And they guaranteed 5 sellers, qualified sellers in my zip code. And I go, okay, I'll sign an annual with you, but no, I'll give you 3 months, and we'll have a discussion about that afterward. And if it's good, we'll continue it. And if it's not, then if it's terrible, I'm going to cancel. Not one seller I got zip codes for San Ramon and California, which is up in Northern California, and called them and they didn't handle it. They go, oh well, it's because your broker's there, and I go, well, yeah, but I'm not there, so, and I'm paying your bill, so either fix it or not. So then I started to get some in like Redlands and all the, and I go, I'm buying 92262, 92264. I'm not buying Redlands. And not that I don't want those leads, but I mean, they just, and so anyway, I canceled on them, and they immediately sent me 3 in my zip code. So it's like, okay, they're controlling these, and they're trying to make
Yeah.
everyone, instead of trying to buy something from a third party that really works against us in the long run. Why not use our own tools, KV Core, and our sync
Make it
sites,
rain.
make it
Yep.
rain? And instead of using all these third party things that they're trying to spread the wealth among a billion people and trying to make
That's a great point. We all, we're bombarded with so much stuff, and we got to wrap it up here, but we're bombarded with so much stuff that it's just, and we all kind of like, gravitate onto that. And before we know it, we're far from what we started on. And I'll just tell you, I was, sitting one-on-one with Glenn Sanford back in January, and it was just the 4 of us. And I started talking about this, and he goes, why are you not using KV Core? And I said, well, I heard blah, 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 blah. And then I felt stupid because I'm like telling the founder of the company who's built his business when he ran teams, on online leads. And then I said, well, I love the AI feature, the text that goes, okay, if you don't like the one that KV Core has that's included, you can get an add-on app that will do what you're saying. Now you're a whole lot less than $1,400 a month. And it's just, be careful that we don't let someone else tell us something that makes us distracted, because we have a ton of tools at EXP and we don't know probably a tenth of what there are. Yeah, go ahead.
What I did is I heard from an onboarding, this is something that's free, but you should probably go find something that you can buy.
Right.
And
Yeah.
never looked at it. And then I'm like, well, I see this old picture of me on some ads that I get, and I go, where's that coming from? It's coming from KV Core when I first signed on. And I go, well, if I'm sending ads to myself, I could be sending ads to my leads, and I need to really pay attention to this.
So I just want to say, Ann said she just dropped sync. That's that, but you're having good success with stuff, but maybe there's something better, more effective, less money. But
I did. Well, that's why I did, because my contract was done and I couldn't justify doing another year. I can't afford it. Yes, it's great. I'm getting a closing out of it, but I just couldn't afford to sign another contract,
Sure.
which is why
So we've got another answer coming. Doug's going to leave right now to go to the call that we're jumping on with them to talk about some things. So we've got another answer coming. Everybody do activate your KV Core, whether you think you need it or not, because we'll make sure that it's easy for what you need. And because you're not keeping in touch with your clients, if you're not sending them something often as simple as a happy birthday or different things, you need that. You can't compete with other people that are. And what I want to give you a challenge is, I want you all to please never use Google before you check with ChatGPT first. And because you're going to learn it that way, and think two different ways. Think how I can use it as a realtor, and also think how I could use it in my everyday life. Because yesterday I was in a doctor's office waiting on Craig to get his colonoscopy, and I was sitting there, and this is how this is so easy. This woman was like horrible in the office talking. And I looked over at this lady sitting about 5 people over from me. She looked and kind of gave that eye like, oh. And so I said, and so I took a piece of paper and I started writing down, and I said, you got to get this book. It's going to help you how I would normally have acted towards that woman, like gotten all frustrated. I'm just like, and so I said, and then text me. Here's my number. I didn't ask for her number. I said, just text me. I should ask for a number if I really want to follow up with it. But I said, text me and tell me what you thought. Then we're sitting there longer, and I said, have you started using ChatGPT yet? She goes, what? And I told her a couple of things she could do, that compare prices on her grocery list and make a grocery list at, 2 different supermarkets. And she's like, oh my God. So I thought, I got to have a community created that I can say, okay, I'm going to send you this link to join my little group. That is going to be people that I'm going to share what they can do. And I'm going to go on, I'm going to ask ChatGPT, what are things everyday people can use you for? And then there's going to be YouTube videos that'll pop up, and watch them. And that was a great idea I got today, was 40 things a realtor can do with ChatGPT. So I got to run on this call, and I thank everybody for coming. Please use those tools that we got, and please shoot Chris a text message to tell him thank you, because he's really been working hard on that. All right, everybody have a great week. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.